folk rock, folk pop.
It's now 6 o'clock. You may start the meeting.
Sure.
Call the meeting to order.
I'm sorry, is that,
You can call the meeting to order.
I call our music advisor meeting to order at 6 o'clock on, February, what's the day? February the 5th, 2026.
Public comment.
Open the floor for public comments, yeah. Going to open the floor for public comments. Citizens who desire to address the city council, board, and or commission in person with regard to matters on the agenda must complete a request to speak form and give it to the city secretary or designee prior to the beginning of the meeting. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. Speakers requiring a translator will have 6 minutes, regardless of the number of agenda items to be discussed.
You want to sign up for public comment?
We have no one signed up.
So we're gonna move to the Music Advisory Board orientation. So my name is Shay Davis. I am the Music Advisory Board liaison to the Governor's Office and for Civic Arts. I'm the manager of arts. So welcome, new people returning. I'm so glad to see you all. So a couple quick reminders. You are the stewards of the city's music ecosystem. We were established in fall 2024, part of the Texas Music Office Friendly Texas program. And this board is about community engagement, resources, talent retention, and growth strategy. Did you know there are 92 music friendly cities in Texas? We were number 66. $1.3 billion. That's the amount of music-related revenue generated in those 92 cities for 2025. Some cities saw more success than others. A huge factor was how their industry is supported. So these are our 6 pillars: economic development, cultural vibrancy, tourism, small business support, and talent retention. So about your seat, I'm gonna go through some bylaws. You must be engaged currently and consistently as a board member in performing, purchasing, promoting, producing, and supporting original music in Sugar Land to remain eligible for the board. Your terms are 2 years each, not to exceed 3 full terms. Any member may be expelled for conduct that is found to be contrary to the best interests of the city, Civic Arts Division, or the Governor's Office. Board members must be present for 75% of meetings at which the quorum is present. Regular meetings are bi-monthly. Special meetings occur when planning for events and will typically be called by me, the liaison, but they may be called by the chairperson, the co-chair, or any 2 chairs combined. Officers. Any officer may be removed from their position by majority votes of the members at any regular or special meeting. The board may establish committees as necessary to carry out their work. These bylaws may be amended by a 2/3 majority vote of the members present at any special or regular meeting as approved by legal and city council. Move over to annual ethics training by our city attorney, Meredith Reed.
Good evening. For those of you who haven't met me, I'm Meredith Reedy. For those of you who have, still Meredith Reedy. I'm doing your annual ethics training as required by City Council. For those of you who are going to continue to serve annually, you're going to find that we play a game every year. So if you've seen this already and you already know the answers, shout them out because this is participatory. I have to know you're awake. I didn't put you to sleep for you to get credit for it. So we have 3 objectives this evening of the game. You're going to receive your overview that you're required by the code, and hopefully you'll serve your term with no violations because my life and the Independent Ethics Review Board's life is much, much better if we don't have to go through a complaint and get into your business. So who gets to play our little game? Members of City Council, members of Administrative Advisory Boards, such as yourself. Sometimes we ask former council members and board members to play, and candidates for City Council. As I go through this, you're going to see a lot of things don't apply to you. However, I don't know what your future aspirations are going to be. If you want to join a different board, or maybe you want to go spend Tuesday evenings with me on City Council. So I'm going to go over all the rules and regulations. And that way, if you see a violation or if you have higher aspirations, you will know what your expectations are. We have 8 basic rules. We'll go through all 8 of these. So the very first one is state law and our code of conduct. It's very important. It is a special economic benefit or conflict of interest. So this means if you are voting on something or making a recommendation of something in which you own a business, you have a business interest where of 10% or more of the fair market value or $15,000 or more of the fair market value, you have a conflict of interest. Or if you are sitting on planning and zoning, BSC, ZBA, and there's a real property in front of you, you have a whopping value of 2.5 thousand that property, you are conflicted out. So if you determine you have a conflict of interest, what must you do? You must file a conflicts disclosure statement with the city clerk's office. We're going to ask that you abstain. Not only do we ask that, but state law asks you to do that as well. And then we ask you to leave the meeting room. It's not that we don't trust you. We just don't want everybody watching from home or sitting around the audience think that you might be texting somebody or sending a sign and have any appearance of impropriety. So we're just going to ask you to step outside. So you also get to brag if you are working with a vendor, if you're related to them within the 3rd degree of consanguinity, 2nd degree by affinity. Don't know about you. I can't remember those. I have a nifty chart on my desk. I'm happy to give out copies if you want. Or if you have taxable income in the last year that exceeds $2,500. If I go too fast, tell me to slow down, but you look like very smart people, and I'm sure you can read the screen just as fast as I can. So gifts must be disclosed. This is one of those fabulous things. The state law calls them gifts. I call them gifts. The district attorney's office calls them bribes. And so you have to require by state law and the code to, as I like to say, brag about receiving gifts from a vendor. So you get to fill out a form and file it with the city clerk's office. And it covers lodging, transportation, entertainment, or food. And if you're lucky, it could be multiple items. You have to fill them out for each one. And so it is the cumulative value received from each individual vendor within a rolling 12 months. However, you'll see that food has an asterisk. If you have the fortune or misfortune, depending on how the vendor is, of having to actually sit close enough with them while eating to have a conversation, you can go ahead and order that dessert, get a doggy bag, get another appetizer, because you get to get $500 worth of food. So just keep that in mind. If you're really hungry, ask if they'll sit a little bit closer to you and have a conversation, then you can order extra. Additional rules, doing business with the city. So it is prohibited from a city council member from having a significant contract with the city. And you go, what's a significant contract? It is a whopping value of $1,000. It is for their entire term. So if they are a single term council member, you take 3 years, divide by 3, they can go around 333 each year and not get in trouble. However, if they're lifers and want to do all full 9 years, do the math, they're not going to be able to do much business with the city. Representations and appearances, this is where I talk about wearing hats. So, excuse me. Representation. So if you are writing a letter to the editor, people still do that. If you're on Facebook, Nextdoor, and you say, you know what, I think the Music Advisory Board should blah, blah, blah. You need to say, as a member of the Music Advisory Board, blah, blah, blah. If you are not speaking your capacity as a Music Advisory Board member, you can take your hat off and say, as a resident of the city of Sugar Land, or as a constituent, or as a frequent flyer in the city of Sugar Land, I believe this. It's not as important for your board, but like I said, if you have aspirations of a different board, I can tell you Animal Advisory Board and City Council, it's very important. If they say that I like cats, in which capacity they like the cats. Appearances, that is if you are going in front of another board. So you are not allowed to come in front of this board for 2 years after expiration of your term and represent somebody for money. So you can't come in here and say, you know what, this person is the best busker I have ever met, and have them pay you. Unless it's a dinner, then that's a whole separate thing. But you can't do that for 2 years. So keep that in mind. If you do it for free, not a violation, but you cannot be a paid consultant or encouraging it. Misuse and disclosure of official information. There's very unlikely chance that your board is going to be sued. So it's very unlikely you're going to have to go to the council dining room with me and get legal advice. The only other opportunity would be like an economic development situation, which I don't think will apply to you. So this really is not going to be a problem. However, if you did get official information, you're in the course and scope of this that is not publicly known, you cannot use it to your advantage if the public doesn't have. If the information is provided in this room and not like an email sent out that says confidential, have at it, have fun. Participating in procurement, this applies to city council. And city council members are prohibited from participating in any procurement actions. We follow state law. We have a purchasing department. And so if a member of city council decides they want to go out and try to help us with a contract, have a nice little conversation with the vendor saying, hey, Bob, you ought to apply for this. This is the best thing ever. Well, it's a problem because now Bob has been talking to a council member. We disqualify Bob. Bob is no longer a valid bidder on that project. And that council member is now a violation of the code of ethics. And then campaign contributions. So we do not allow city council members to accept campaign contributions from somebody who is actively suing the city. We just don't want you to buy a verdict or have an appearance that they are buying a verdict. So, like I said, I went through this very fast. If your board can't sleep tonight, you can read a full copy right here in chapter 2, article 4 of the city's code of ordinances. I can even send you a link if that's important to you. If you have questions on these rules, you can request a written ethics opinion from me. This is basically a get out jail free card. So you tell me the facts that you're about to, consider, and I go, when I sit on the independent ethics review board meetings, I believe this is their opinion on whether or not this will violate. And then you take that little piece of paper, and if a complaint is filed against you, you go, Meredith said I could do it. And then I'm in trouble and you're not. So what happens if somebody doesn't follow the rules and did not ask me for that get out of jail free card? Well, a written complaint must be filed with the city clerk's office within 1 year of the alleged violation or within 1 year of discovery of that violation. It must contain the name of the person who violated it and what violation might be, the facts and the section. The independent ethics review board doesn't want to have to figure out what that person thinks. Well, was it a conflict of interest? Was it procurement? They need that information provided so they can make this determination. And it must be signed and sworn. So once that happens with the city clerks, they get it, they send it to me and I go, yep, signed, sworn. And I mean, all those criteria are met. I hand it to the independent ethics review board and they go through and they review it. They get their own attorney because I can't be their attorney because I'm not an attorney. It's a conflict of interest. See a theme here, conflict of interest, keep that in mind. And so they'll review the complaint and they will either determine if all the information contained in the complaint is true. They will then have a second meeting where it's a full-blown hearing, and it's like a mini trial. If they say no, even if this is true, it's not a violation, they'll say, thank you very much for your time, have a good evening, be careful next time, and they will let you go. If they do find a violation, they can issue sanctions. These are the sanctions. Starts off as a slap on the hand, all the way down to a recommendation of recall. You'll notice that 6 and 7 are only recommendations because how you get in office is how you get out of the office. So if council appointed you, council has to remove you. If the voters elect you, they have to unelect you. All right, do you have any questions? Are you ready to play?
Let's go.
Okay. All right, this year is the game of life. So to increase revenue and promote tourism within the city, we have a council member who suggests the city install a kayak-friendly boat ramp over the Brazos Turnaround and Oyster Creek right by Constellation Field. Is this a violation if that council member's daughter just happens to own a rent by the hour inflatable kayak company?
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Yes, and what would that violation be? Conflict of interest. All right, but this council member is always the very supportive parent, and they make a few phone calls and get the boat ramp idea on the next Parks Board agenda for review and positive feedback. We have concerns about this. We do, because they are using their position to get something that an average citizen doesn't have the ability. So if somebody on a different board or your neighbor can't just say, hey, I want to put my idea on the Parks Board. It doesn't work that way. So that's still a conflict of interest because they are still trying to influence the actions related to their child. So Parks Board thinks this is the best thing since sliced bread and, slides and swings and everything. So they endorse the prospect. And then they say, you know what we need? We need pad sites for food trucks, because what could go wrong with feeding people and putting them in a little inflatable boat and floating them down the river, right? It's a perfect idea. So we're at P&Z, and the idea is being presented. A P&Z commissioner starts texting their spouse, sweetheart, this is the time to get that food truck we've been thinking about. We're going to hit pay right here. Go buy that food truck. Do we have any violations?
Great idea. But there's a violation, yeah.
Violation.
Yeah, they're using their knowledge that's not public, I guess, to.
You would think it's inside information, but it was discussed in the Parks Board, open to the public, and it was presented to P&Z in a public meeting. Trick question, but that is not inside information. That was a trick.
We knew the Parks Board was public, okay.
I missed that. Oh, yes, all of our boards are public. I'm sorry. Yes, and P&Z is also public.
Okay.
So no violations for this page. So we all think the boat ramp is the best idea ever. So now the city's 2 economic development corporations, SLDC and 4B, say, you know what, we're going to offer some incentives to make sure we get the best kayak company possible here. Good news for the daughter, council member sits on both boards and they have a unanimous vote and they think, this is great. So they've ignored all limitations and they give her all costs needed to bring her inflatable kayak company into Sugar Land. What kind of violations do we have here? conflict of interest.
Yeah, absolutely.
Dad should not have sat on that board, or mom, I'm not gonna say which council member it is.
All kinds.
Some members should not have voted on the item for the child. What should they have done? They should have abstained, filed a form with the city clerk's office, and walked down the hallway. Correct. Okay. So, well, financing secured, Parks Board endorsed, and city council then gives a license for an exclusive kayak rental. Same violation, conflict of interest. All right, 6 months goes by. It is the best possible thing ever. They're making money. Unfortunately, on Labor Day weekend, the alligator had the same thought I did. Why put food into somebody, put them in an inflatable kayak, float them down the river, and a kayaker was bitten. As I'm sure I can imagine, an alligator bite's not cheap, and it probably makes the person mad. So they decide they're going to sue the kayak company and the city. As a result, city council goes to the dining room and has a little conversation with me about this lawsuit. What are our concerns at this point?
Are they making donations to the public office?
That's a good question. You're the first one who brought that up. Hopefully we're not in campaign season. We're making a donation. However, can the council member sit in executive session to get the information?
It's. No.
No, they have a
That's with
conflict.
the insurance of the company that is running it.
Well, they're also gonna sue the city because the city issued a license.
Oh.
And if you look at the dollar amounts, there's no way that food truck or kayak company is gonna come close to those insurance deductibles. And I mean, I'm sure it hurt, your feelings are hurt, you're kind of mad. So you want pain and suffering as well. So the council member cannot sit in that executive session and hear all about the lawsuit because there's gonna be a city lawsuit as well as his child's kayak company. So his issue is he must continue to stay out in the hallway and not participate. So city council settles a lawsuit, says, you know, this is like the worst idea ever. We were wrong. Anybody and everybody can just go pop their boat in there and float and we'll have a good time. But we have a local business owner who's mad. He says, you know what? I would not have done inflatable kayaks. I would have done a solid metal kayak and there would not have been an alligator bite. I should have been collected. I should have been chosen. So he files a complaint with the Ethics Commission. So we have reached the day of reckoning and the last slide. So the Ethics Board hears and receives this complaint. What violations, if any, would they sustain? As you know, we've had a theme here, it's conflict of interest. So my Independent Ethics Review Board, as I was putting this presentation together, tells me that had the council member done the first slide, presented the idea, and then walked away and filed the conflict of interest form, they would not have found any violations. However, because the council member continued to participate, if they had never recused themselves and made it to the very last slide and even tried to get that executive session, they would recommend recall. They believe that to be such an egregious violation that that person could no longer represent the members of their district. So do y'all have any questions, or are you happy for the next year that you're ethically prepared? Fantastic.
Thank you.
That was amazing.
Year. Yes, I need to get your name down. Because wait, I need, did you get their names? Okay, I want to make sure you have
Minutes
Move for approval of minutes.
from June 12th, 2025.
Okay, yes, so we have a motion to review and approve the minutes from our June 12th, 2025 meeting. Anyone move to approve them? Questions about the minutes?
I move to.
So Ebony moved to approve the minutes. Do we have a second? Second that. Eric, second the motion. Objections? Minutes are noted as approved.
Can I get a vote, please?
Oh, a vote, sorry. We need a vote. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, opposed? Unanimous?
Minutes are approved. Okay, so now we're moving to our workshops and strategic goals and program initiatives. So this is kind of the meat of our meeting today. We're gonna review and discuss identifying strategic priorities and preliminary fiscal year goals, along the board's work plan with the city's art, tourism, and economic development objectives, and consider programs support fundraising, industry development, community access, and signature music initiatives. So where do we go from here? So we need to focus on 4 things this year. One of those things is the industry database. They have updated the industry database with the economic development team with the governor's office, so it's actually listed on their site now. We do have a database. It is not large. We started off with 11 people. We ended last year with 43. And those are musicians, agents, things like that. They all attended. Make Music Day is really where we get the majority of people in one space to improve that database. So we were able to do that last year. One of the things we really want to focus on is visibility. And that's going to benefit us with the industry database, with talent retention, and with fundraising. And then the final is also talent retention, making sure that our artists come here to perform and they stay here to perform. We haven't had that issue. We do have quite a large roster. It's incredible to see it grow. Most of the artists that we call on do repeat, but we are in need of a larger database and we want to retain those new artists. So we do this by focusing on strategies that meet the need of the arts community first, and then the community at large. So from a lot of our conversations that we've had, like our forum last year, where we had all the artists come in and have a conversation, we definitely need to talk about having another one of those so we can bring artists into City Hall and kind of have that chat. But we need to figure out ways to get out into the community and talk to the venues and the locations that are actually opening up music. There are a couple of new locations that we didn't get to work with last year that we need to really go to, have conversations with, see how we can support, see what they're in need of, and make sure they're at the next forum. We had a couple venue owners at the last forum. We definitely need to make sure we have more at this next one. They have renewed the Texas Music and Reimbursement Program, which is $300,000 of refunds on your taxes to any venue that sees more than 1,000 people in a year. That's most of the venues in the city of Sugar Land, yet none of the venues in the city of Sugar Land were awarded last year. That's definitely something we could get on the ground and have conversations about and make sure that they have the knowledge for. 1.5K. This is how many people came to Make Music Day last year in Town Square. We activated 5 spaces. So then that also includes Farmers Market, 2 restaurants, Town Square, and another space down Baker Street. We had 12 hours of live music, and our impressions grew by 21.3, 126% increase in audience on platforms, and an average stay time at each one of our locations of 53 minutes. As we build towards Make Music Day, let's begin to work in our 4 areas of focus. So this is kind of the opportunity for us to talk about ways that we can, first of all, Make Music Day is going to be our biggest event of the year. That's going to be 6/21. It'll be in Town Square again this year. That is going to be interesting because it'll go on directly smack dab in the middle of FIFA. So we are partnering with Visit Sugar Land to make sure a ton of people are aware of it, because our hotel occupancy is going to be at capacity at that point. And then Town Square is going to be decorated for FIFA, but it also is Father's Day. So it is going to be quite a day. So the call there is, we're going to be booking quite a few artists. We're going to be out there doing lessons, the same thing. But we want to make sure that our music advisory board is there at the table. They were there last year, as we collect and grow our database. That database has come in extreme handy as we book bands, because we book directly from that list. Every artist we book comes from that list. And that's how we've kind of been able to grow our community. So feedback, what are you guys thinking as far as getting out into the community, having these conversations, making sure more venue owners are aware of what we're doing, coming to forums, coming to meetings? Like, it's empty today. It's not always the case, but obviously this time it is. So what is your feedback or thoughts around ways that we can prevent that, ways that we can get into community engagement and make sure people know what it is that we're doing?
Reaching out to venue owners that we know in the city, I guess, is a start. I mean, like, I know Talliard, the owners of Talliard, so I would reach out to them. I know some of the people that book like Baker Street or whatever, but I think getting in communication with the people that book here in Town Square and try to get the city and that company talking better.
Yeah, for sure.
But you know, if they don't want to, because I was talking with some friends earlier. And they were saying how they miss, how they had music every Friday and Saturday. And now it's like once a month, and it's just kind of. So I don't know if there's a way, or if we can, to try to maybe find sponsors to help pay for the music, like local businesses, or it's car dealerships or whatever. If they want to sponsor the music for that day, maybe they'd be more inclined to have more actual music. But I mean, do they even know about the Texas Music Reimbursement Program? Are they eligible for that?
They might be. They meet a lot of the parameters, but we have to get in there with them and have these conversations and see. The only times we talk about it is at meetings or at the forum. Baker Street, we are really close with the manager of Baker Street. We actually have a text chain with him. He does not come to things. He's typically at work, and we have to go and meet them where they are. It's really challenging to get them to come to these things. He's probably at work right now. And so that's the issue that we've kind of run into. Pythagoras, I'm really close with that owner, and he wanted to come to the forum. He couldn't, his baby was sick. And, you know, these are the things that we have to kind of plan for, like, how do we get our board into these spaces to talk to people? How do we get our board scheduled with venues to sit and tell them about this? Because these are print offable resources from the music office website. We can print them off, and we should be going out to these locations and having these conversations, because it is challenging to get them to leave their venues and come to us.
Do we have
Yeah, I think
cards?
Cards? No.
No, it's a good question. To me, I think we don't have a list of venues that are music oriented in Sugar Land. I think, you know, Sarah's got her church community. There's churches that are in the community as well. We sort of ignore them, but there's lots of touring contemporary Christian artists and people in the community who play in different churches. There's venues that we all individually might know. That's a good question. That would be a great brainstorming, just to say, okay, let's get a spreadsheet together that has the 174 venues that are music related in Sugar Land, just so we all know who are they. And then I think from there, it'd be really easy for us to start targeting them, either cold calling and talking with them or whatever else, to find out, you know, what's on their mind. You know, Billy Folke. Yeah, so Billy played at a showcase, you know, for the Songwriting Association, and he was giving me the rundown on Pythagoras, and I guess the PROs leaning on them in Sugar Land. Apparently,
We had to stop.
They've had to stop.
At Double Dave's, we had to stop. We're not doing live music anymore because it's too expensive.
yeah, the PR, and they were somehow targeting Sugar Land in Fort Bend County. They were just hitting every business, right? But it did. I get off on a tangent. I would recommend that the advisory board spends time making a spreadsheet of all the venues or places that have music or, you know, offer music in some fashion, just so we can have that to start with.
And the challenge in that is Visit Sugar Land, as you know, they tap in with pretty much every venue in the city. Their list is shorter than what we even know. So there's definitely there has to be a gap. There's something missing, because I know there's more music venues than what we even have recorded. There have to be.
I would say it's worth a half an hour or an hour Zoom call. We all get on a call and just say, okay, let's just start making a list and make a clean list. Because people aren't going to sign up to the database until we go get them on. So is that?
I will admit, I tried to sign up for the database, and that application process is very daunting. So I think it might be turning people off. I got partially through, and I was like, oh my God.
Yes,
And then I was like, I can't. So we gotta figure out an easier way, because they're musicians, okay?
And I think there's a big difference between the artists and the venues. And I think you know, to me, it would make more sense to start with the venues, because they're gonna drive more than the artist registration will. So I don't know, I would say, let's all get on a call and just work on a spreadsheet for an hour and make a list of everybody who's, who's a music venue.
Well, that might be something we do at our next in-person. We're not allowed to do Zooms. Yeah, everything has to be in person. But we can definitely, at our next session, do that. We can do a workshop for the next session, get the spreadsheet up and going. That's something me and Ebony can form up and make sure everybody has a copy of prior to the next session, and we can just get started. And what we'll do is import over the ones we already have into that shareable, and you guys can see what we have, and we can work from there for the next session. So we can 100% do that and kind of hone in on.
Can we do our own research and bring it into the workshop?
Absolutely. I encourage and also encourage you to stop by the venues and say, hey, like, I'm on the music advisory board. Like, what issues are you experiencing? Like, you 100% have authority to do that.
So you mentioned there was something for these venues that there's like, it's all written out or whatever. It would be very helpful. I mean, we can tell them, you can go here all day long. That doesn't mean they're going to remember how to get somewhere. I think it'd be helpful to either get cards for just music advisory board and maybe put a QR code on the back of it so that they can go directly to it. They don't have to remember a link or like,
Well, I think
where do I need to go for this, that kind of stuff.
is print them off and have them at Gillingham for you guys to pick up, and then we can also bring them here. One of the things that we don't have is money. So cards is probably out of the question. She's like, no, yeah, we don't have any money.
I love
I love it. I think it's so good too.
I
Yeah.
love your thought about the sponsors. And so my thought would be like, kind of like an order of battle. Let's get the venues chased out in the open. And then we can start talking with the venues, and then next, who might be a sponsor,
Yeah.
right? I don't know. I know my wife does a ton of fundraising in the community and whatever.
Guitar Center and Guitar Center.
Audi dealership.
We got a ton of people who might want to be sponsors for events, but we gotta know which venues will be open to that, right? If someone was sponsoring. And maybe when we do Make Music Day, we get card sponsors, or, so we could get sponsors for Make Music Day itself from the community that are businesses. And maybe that we include promotional stuff like business cards for the advisory board to meet with people and whatever. So I think we gotta get sponsors and venues sort of cooking. I don't know, that's my thought.
I like the idea of venues. Are you looking for a certain type of venue for these music settings? Like, it'll hold more than 10 or 50, or do you have like kind of a what's best?
I think
Any at all.
the Smart Financial Center came last time to
Yeah.
our board meeting. So in my mind, the big boys in the community like that, like Talyard's bigger, they're gonna do more. We don't really have a theater in the area. And so, I think everyone else is gonna end up being kind of smaller. There's some churches that host coffee shops and other things that I've heard of.
We can definitely get a calendar of those type of things and make sure board members starting to be present, at these things. So, find out what the calendar is, pull that together and see who's available to stop by, whether it be me, Ebony, or one of the board members, to kind of talk to them and see where they stand on this.
But I think to answer your question, is there any place they're doing community, they have music, like live music, that's original, because that's part of our charter. So original live music in their venue. I think that's it, if it's a Sugarland based outfit.
Okay, so next steps, what we're gonna do next is our next meeting, we'll be sending out a doodle poll to see when everybody's available. It won't be next month, it'll be the one after. So we'll be looking at April for the next meeting. And so we'll send out a doodle poll to you guys, see what you're available for April. Before April though, we're gonna be sending over those resources for the TMIR, which is the reimbursement program that venues can apply for. Feel free please feel free to stop by a venue, talk to them, take the paperwork. We'll print them off and have them at the front desk. We'll also bring them here. We're at Gillingham, so we'll make sure the address is on the emails that we send you guys, but we'll send it again as well. If you want to stop by Gillingham and pick up printables, we'll have those for you guys. We can print out some QR codes on the back of them, you know, just make sure people can more easily get to them so you can print them off and get out and into the community. That's the goal this year, is community engagement, visibility. Because I think we should be qualifying for sponsorships. I know Gibson Guitars, Guitar Center, all these people, they just do it. They have a certain amount of sponsorships they have to do in a city that they're in. And we didn't participate in that last year, and we definitely can this year. So we'll get that email to you guys in the next few days, with a new spreadsheet with the ones on it that we already have, so you have access, so you know who's already registered. And then for that April meeting, we'll just do a hardcore work session and go through them, talk about what we need to do, what's missing, and kind of make a game plan for getting out and talking to people. Was there anything else you guys were thinking on that subject before we call it to close? I'm excited. It's gonna be incredible. Make Music Day last year got 1.5. I'm saying we can do 2.5 this year. I don't see why not. But it starts now, right? So we can get on that and make sure we have a ton of people out. Awesome. We can move to adjourn.
Mark Winters, I move to adjourn our meeting today. If you plan to attend this public meeting and you have a disability and require special arrangements at the meeting, please contact us for the next one. Request of special services must be received 48 hours prior to the meeting. Reasonable accommodations will be made to assist you in your needs. The agenda and supporting documentation is located on the city website. I move to adjourn. Yeah. Can we get a second? Second. Eric Estrada seconds. Do we need to vote?
Yes.
All in favor?